late afternoon sun burned red over the western plains as Jacob Harlan guided his horse down the long trail home. He'd spent the day mending fences and checking cattle, the kind of quiet, dusty work he'd come to love since leaving behind a life of chaos in the border towns. The wind was low, the air dry, and only the creak of his saddle broke the stillness. But then, just faintly, a sound came through the quiet. A cry. A woman's voice, hoarse and trembling, carried on the wind. Jacob pulled his horse to a stop, his pulse quickening. It wasn't the kind of sound you ignored out here, not in this country where trouble hid behind every rock. "Help me! Please!" The voice came again, closer this time, cracked with fear and pain. He swung down from his horse and moved toward the sound, his boots crunching through dry earth. Near the old creek bed, he found her, a young woman covered in dust and blood, her dress torn, eyes wide with terror. She looked like she'd been running for days. "Ma'am?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her. She flinched back, clutching her arm where a deep bruise bloomed beneath the dirt. "Please, don't let them take me back," she whispered. "They'll kill me." Jacob's heart tightened. "Who's after you?" he asked. She looked over her shoulder, trembling. "The men from Red Hollow," she said. "I saw something I shouldn't have." Her voice cracked again, but before she could say more, the sound of horses echoed from beyond the ridge. Jacob's instincts kicked in. He helped her to her feet and half-carried her toward his horse. "We need to move," he said, his voice low but firm. He didn't know what he was getting into, but he couldn't walk away. As they rode toward his ranch, he glanced back and saw riders emerging from the dust. 3 men in dark coats, their faces hard, their pace steady. Whoever they weren't here for a friendly talk. When Jacob reached his cabin, he helped her inside and bolted the door. The woman sat trembling beside the fire he lit, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "Ain't nobody getting to you here." She met his eyes, and for a moment, something unspoken passed between them. Fear, trust, and the faintest flicker of hope. "My name's Clara," she murmured. "And they'll come." "They always do." Jacob loaded his rifle, his jaw tightening. "Then let 'em," he said. "They'll find out quick enough this ranch ain't theirs to ride through." Outside, the wind began to rise and the sound of distant hoofbeats returned. Closer, heavier, filled with purpose. Jacob didn't know it yet, but by nightfall, his life and hers would be tied together by a truth darker than either of them could imagine. The night fell heavy over the plains. The only light came from the flickering oil lamp by the window and the moon cutting through the clouds. Jacob watched the horizon, his rifle across his lap, waiting. Clara sat quietly by the hearth, her eyes darting to the door every few moments. "You should rest," he told her softly. She shook her head. "You don't understand. They're not just men, they work for the marshal." Jacob's head snapped toward her. "The law?" he asked. "You're telling me the law's chasing you?" She nodded slowly, tears brimming. "I saw him. The marshal. Kill a man in cold blood. He said it was justice, but it wasn't. The man had proof of the land fraud, how they've been stealing ranches from settlers and framing them for crimes. I ran before he could silence me too." Jacob's breath caught. The name she spoke next made his blood run cold. Marshal Reeves. The same man who'd once tried to buy Jacob's land for half its worth. The same man he'd refused to deal with. The truth hit him like a hammer. They weren't after Clara because she'd done wrong. They were after her because she knew too much. Hoofbeats thundered again outside. Jacob snuffed the lamp and moved to the door. Through the crack, he saw 3 riders dismounting, men in long coats, rifles at the ready. "Clara," he whispered. "Stay down." The knock came, a slow, heavy thud that carried authority. "Evening, Harlan," a voice called. "Heard you're keeping company you shouldn't." Jacob said nothing. He cocked the rifle. "Hand her over," the voice continued, "and you can go back to fixing fences." Silence stretched thick in the dark. Then Jacob spoke, voice low but steady. "You want her? You'll have to come through me." Gunfire erupted. The cabin shook with the sound of bullets tearing through the walls. Jacob returned fire, his shots sharp and precise. The attackers retreated briefly, regrouping behind the barn. Inside, Clara crawled to his side, eyes wide with fear. "They'll kill you for helping me," she cried. Jacob glanced at her, then smiled faintly. "Some things are worth dying for." The words hung in the smoky air. When the fight ended, dawn was breaking. 2 riders lay still in the dirt, and the 3rd had fled into the horizon. Clara stood in the doorway, tears on her face. the rising sun casting gold across her battered skin. "You saved me," she whispered. Jacob holstered his rifle and looked out at the endless plains. "No," he said quietly. "You saved me. Reminded me what's right." The wind carried away the smoke and silence returned to the land. But in that silence the truth had found its voice, and the West, for the first time in a long while, felt just a little more just.